Thanks very much, Doug. And for those who have been here before, I say it every year, only in Maine. Only in Maine, as Deb reminded us, has the opportunity, the density of digital access provide an opportunity for this number of young students to come together along with teachers in this digital environment. But it's not just about getting your homework done. If you've been with us before, you know that we, throughout the year, are looking for students from across Maine who are doing more than getting their homework done. That's an expectation. We all want you to do well in school. It's critically important. But what we look for are students who are doing more. And I have the opportunity to introduce today a young woman that I was introduced to from Foxcroft Academy, Bri Adkins. I went up to Foxcroft last Friday because it's unfair to any presenter to ask them to present in a hall this size without being a critical friend, without listening to their presentation and honestly responding to whether or not they're quote-unquote good to go. As I listened to Bri last Friday, it was clear to me that Bri is good to go. So with that said, and without further ado, I'd like to introduce Bri Adkins. Bri?
I'm so excited to be here. How are all of you? Are you guys excited to be here at the MLTI Conference? I remember sitting in the same seats that all of you were sitting in my 7th and 8th grade years of middle school and being here for the MLTI Conference. So I'm so excited to see all of you here. So I'm going to start off with my presentation. So this is the story of how I became more than pretty smart. I'd like to start off with introducing myself. My name is Bri Adkins. I'm a senior at Foxcroft Academy. I am an actress, a writer, a graphic designer, a lover of Star Wars, sewing, and body positivity. And most importantly to me, I'm the creator of Pretty Smart magazine. So everything starts with a story. And I love creating stories. That's my thing. And so the summertime into my junior year, I realized that I had so many ideas that I wanted to put together. I had so many things that I wanted to write down, and so I grabbed a journal and I started writing bullet notes of everything that I wanted to do with my year. I knew that I wanted to do something incredible to call my own, and so that's when I wrote down the most important bullet note of my life. As I was reading through the pages of Teen Vogue magazine, I looked down at the pages and I said, this isn't that hard. I have the tools to make this. I have an iPad from MLTI, I have a camera, I have a laptop, and I have the ability to do something awesome. So that bullet note read across the page, I am going to create a body-positive fashion magazine. So I knew that I wanted to create a magazine. That was awesome, but in order to do something like that, you have to have the ambition to do something. And so I knew that I needed to create a title for my magazine. So I went through different things like Cursive Magazine, but that didn't work. Style Maine didn't work. Bopo for body positivity just wasn't clicking. And then that's when I heard a phrase come from my dad. He said to me, "You're pretty smart for a girl." And of course that's been a joke through my family all of these years. With my grandfather, we just pass phrases back and forth. And it always makes me laugh, like, you're pretty smart for a girl. But then I realized really what it meant. It's a really limiting phrase. You're pretty smart, but just for a girl. And I knew that I was smart. I knew that I was capable of doing so many things, but that phrase was so limiting. And I knew that this phrase was just a joke passed through my family, and so that's never been anything that's been bad. But I had to come to realize that this phrase could mean so many different things to so many other girls around the world. And so I decided to put my own spin on Pretty Smart. In January of 2016, I stepped into my junior year and took the creative writing class through my teacher, Miss Rubley. And I stepped up to her on the first day and I said, I want to create a magazine. Can I do it? And she looked at me, and instead of acting shocked and being like, oh, that's such a huge thing to do, she looked at me and she said, do it. I want to see what you can do. And that was so empowering, being able to look at my teacher and be so encouraged by someone who had so much belief in me. And so I got started. I grabbed all of the girls from my school who inspired me and were doing so many things in their community and doing so many things in my community, and just inspiring and empowering all of the girls around them. And so I took them and I interviewed them, and I got to take pictures of them, and that's when I started putting together the entire presentation and the Pretty Smart magazine very first issue in January. And so once it was all finished, I knew that I wanted to post it somewhere. But I had no idea what to do, because that's terrifying. Once you put something up on the internet, you know it's going to be there forever. So that was the bravest thing I had to choose to do. So as I uploaded Pretty Smart to Facebook, and I clicked the submit button, I crossed my fingers. But that's when something amazing happened. The comments rolled in. People were telling me that they loved my work. They were so impressed with everything that I was doing, and they wanted to see it continue. And people were asking me for subscriptions to my magazine, to Pretty Smart. That was so important to me. But I got thinking, I'm just a junior. I'm just a junior in high school. My opinion doesn't matter. People don't care. But these messages from people all through my community and people from all over the state of Maine, it was incredible getting that feedback. People wanted to hear my stories. And not only did they want to hear my stories, they wanted to continue to hear the stories of other women in my community. And that was so huge to me. Being able to see the importance of that and understand that in order to empower myself and empower other people, I had to continue Pretty Smart. And so that's when February happened. In February and March of 2016, I created more issues. And that's when Pretty Smart as a project just became this huge passion project for me. And I kept continuing with it. And it was incredible. And then in April, I realized that I had to do something else. I needed to create a library for my magazines. It was all online because I was using all of the technology that the MLTI gave our school. So I realized that I was going to have to branch out onto other aspects of technology to create my own website. So I chose Wix.com, and I got onto the website, and I started clicking and just dragging things into the desktop. And I was like, how is this so easy? I thought it would take so long to create a website for myself. But then I started thinking, how does this technology work? How is it able to just drag and drop things? How do I not have to learn how to code these things? And so that's when the most important thing rolled up onto my Instagram account. The picture said, Code with Flossie. And it really interested me because it was posted by model Carly Kloss. And if you don't know who she is, she's incredible. She's one of the most famous international supermodels in the entire world. And she's been my role model for about 5 years now. So seeing that she wanted to empower other women was so important to me. So I knew three things. I knew that it was by Carly Kloss. I knew that it was in New York City, which was my dream place to go. I needed to go to New York City. And third, it was a STEM field. It was coding. It was taking girls and introducing them to STEM and saying, you can do this. But I wasn't good at the STEM field. I was never good at algebra in school, geometry, biology, so that really terrified me. But as I brought this to my teacher, Miss Ferry, and I said, I want to apply, but I don't know if I should. She looked at me and she said, you better do it. If you don't, I'm going to kick you. And so at that moment, I knew I had to apply, and I took a camera from my school and my iPad, and I took iMovie and all of the different apps that the MLTI gave to us, and I created my application for Code with Flossie. So in May, as I waited backstage for the 3-act, I finally landed the lead role for it. I was in my Chewbacca onesie, just swiping on lipstick to get ready for the role I was in and curling my hair. It was just such a casual night, and as I opened my iPad, words flowed across the screen. It said, congratulations, you have been accepted to Code with Clossie. And I dropped my iPad straight onto the table and I instantly burst into tears. And all of my friends gathered around me and they're like, Bri, are you okay? Are you okay? We knew this meant so much to you. But as I turned around, I realized something. They didn't think that I was going to get in. This was such a huge thing. So as I turned around to them and I said, I did it, they looked at me and they were like, what? You're going to New York City? You're meeting a supermodel? And I realized how huge all of this was. And so you're all probably wondering who Karlie Kloss is. So Karlie Kloss is a supermodel from St. Louis, Missouri. She is Taylor Swift's best friend. She's one of the most influential supermodels in the world. You can see her on the covers of In Style this month or in Teen Vogue and Vogue all over the world. And most importantly, she's a coder, a feminist, and an empowered entrepreneur. So in July, when I rode the bus down to New York City, I was so amazed when I walked into Times Square and I saw the incredible buildings and just everything was there. My entire dream was coming true. But then I realized that I also had to go to work. I had to go to school for 2 weeks, the Code with Clossie school. And so when I got to class, I didn't realize how amazing that would be. When I got there, I met 26 of the most incredible women I have ever come to know. I got to meet Rachel, and she is one of my best friends now. She is a model and she's a coder, and she's taking those two aspects of her life and putting them together to create something incredible. And I met Cammie, who's just 13 years old, and she had the ambition to learn how to code. And girls like Zoe, who went to Mexico over the summer to help kids learn how to use the internet in their countries and learn to make websites. And that was incredible. Meeting these girls and being able to do all of these labs with them was the most incredible thing I have ever gotten to do. And so the very first week, we got to take labs and learn how to do functions and while loops and print statements, and we got to go through labs to make Swarovski ads, and we got to make Hamilton fan pages, and we got to hack Twitter, which was awesome. And then the most incredible thing happened. We got to meet Karlie Kloss. And as I stood in line getting ready to meet her with a little Forever 21 bag I had filled with gifts in my magazine, as I got up to see her and I saw her, my eyes stayed wide open and I couldn't speak. And then I started rambling and I said, "Hi Karlie, my name is Bri Adkins." And I started rambling off all of this information, and then as soon as I said the words, "my magazine," something flashed in her eyes and she looked at me and she grabbed my arm and said, "Oh, Pretty Smart magazine, right? I love that so much. That's such a cool play on words. You're Brana." And instantly I stepped back because my role model of 5 years not only knew that I was creating my own magazine, but she knew my name. And so that was so incredible to me, the fact that she was getting ready to support me through all of these months and getting ready to help me learn how to code. That was insane. And so in the second week of camp, I took that ambition that she gave me and I put it to work, and I got through all of the labs, and it was the most challenging thing to learn how to code, but being able to take the failures that I made in code and just have a round of high fives every single time we made an error, because every error made new progress. That was so important to me. Being able to be encouraged through that camp was so empowering to me. And in the second week, we got to get together into groups to create our own app. And so I got to work with Priya and Alicia, and we got to create an app called Fit Me, which was a clothing generator which helped other women create clothing for themselves based on their body type and their budget so that they could look beautiful any shape that they are, which was so important to me. And so after Code with Clossie, it kind of got stuck in my head how huge that was. I got to meet a supermodel, and I now had that connection, that human connection that would stay with me for the rest of my life. And so I got to thinking, what's next? How am I going to top this? And so that's when I realized that I needed to make the Koba Klossy issue of Pretty Smart magazine. So I got to work and I got into contact with all of the girls I met at camp, and I got together with them and I interviewed them and I got to take the pictures of them I took at camp, and I put together about a 100-page magazine which I got to give to Karlie Kloss along with my own Pretty Smart shirt. I got to create my own clothing line, which was huge, my own shirts to share at my school and in my community. And that was so cool. And once I sent that out to Karlie and her team, she tagged me in an Instagram photo thanking me for everything that I gave to her. And I didn't think it could get better from there, but it did. In October, DPMC International, a printing company from all over the world, contacted me and said that they wanted to print my magazine, Pretty Smart, for free. And so I stepped back and said, what? For free? That means I don't have to pay, right? And that was so huge for me, being able to have 60 copies of my magazine, 2 issues of my magazine. That was incredible for me. And then in November, I got to do the Pretty Smart election, which allowed 3 beautiful girls to be on the cover girl for Pretty Smart magazine, and that was so huge. And I got to highlight how brilliant, bold, and beautiful they are, which is the message for Pretty Smart. And that was so awesome for me. And then in December, another thing happened. Karlie Kloss went on to Versace's Instagram story, and she featured my magazine. She went on there to start talking about Koba Klossy and how all of these purses were going to donate $100 to the Koba Klossy camp. And when she pulled something out of the bag, I noticed that it said Pretty Smart. She pulled my magazine out on Versace's Instagram story. And if you don't know what Versace is, it is one of the most high-end fashion houses in the entire world. So that was huge for me. And so that was an entire year of Pretty Smart. I went from January to December, and I created about 12 issues of my own magazine. And then I realized something. That was an entire year of Pretty Smart. So all of my friends and family said, well, what's next? Are you going to continue this project? What do you want to do next? And so I realized that I wanted to continue it. Pretty Smart was no longer just about me. It was about empowering other women around me, and that's what I wanted to carry out through this message. And so in January, I created another issue, and then in February, and in March. And then in April, another incredible opportunity happened. Karlie Kloss invited me to her very first Karlie for Express fashion show, where she got to debut her very first clothing line in St. Louis, Missouri, her hometown. So that was so huge. I got to fly out and meet all of the girls, all of the 80 girls that went to Koba Klossy over the summer from Los Angeles and everywhere all over the world. And that was so incredible, being able to meet all of those incredible girls who had the same ambitions as me. And I just got to get together and have fun and meet them and support Karlie Kloss, and that was so huge for me. And when I got there, and as I watched Karlie Kloss get into her vehicle as she was ready to drive away, I grabbed my bag again with Pretty Smart, and I ran up to her and I said, Karlie, I have something for you. And our eyes met, and she went, Brana, I'm so happy to see you. And so I grabbed my magazine and I handed it to her, and she drove away in her vehicle, and that was it. But the fact that I got to go to a fashion show, and I got to give Karlie Kloss another issue of my magazine, that was so important to me, the fact that she would continue to support me. And then a week later, Karlie did something unbelievable. Karlie Kloss wrote an article in Teen Vogue magazine, and she knew how much Teen Vogue meant to me. And so she decided to put me in Teen Vogue. She wrote, every single one of these girls is incredible, like awesome Koba Klossy alum and founder of Pretty Smart magazine, Brana. She went from knowing nothing about code to building a web app at camp, and like so many of the Koba Klossy grads, she didn't stop there. Brana rallied her community in rural Maine to increase computer science education opportunities, convincing her school to offer a coding class and start a scholarship to help other girls learn to code. So the fact that Karlie Kloss wrote about me in Teen Vogue, my favorite magazine. That was insane. I was so ecstatic. I jumped up and down. It was midnight, and I remember screaming to my parents at midnight and saying, "Mom, I'm in Teen Vogue." And that was so insane, just being able to realize that I was going to be on Teen Vogue's website and that would stay for the rest of my life. That was awesome. And then in April of 2017, I got to have the Pretty Smart Gala, which was incredibly important to me. I had been planning this gala for over a year, and the gala was such a success. We had so many amazing musical acts, and we raised about $500 for the Pretty Smart Scholarship. And I knew that Foxcroft Academy gave me so much. They gave me so many scholarships to go to so many different places, to go to St. Louis for a fashion show, and to go to New York City for 2 weeks to code with Karlie Kloss. And my family had supported me so much, and I needed to give back to my community. And I knew that I needed to create a scholarship for a girl at my school. So the Pretty Smart Scholarship was announced at Foxcroft Academy, and I got to give it to an amazing girl named Emily Sprecher, who's using this $500 to give herself a better education at the University of Maine to go into engineering and learn how to code. And that was so important to me, to be able to empower other women around me. And so that was what I thought would end my year at Foxcroft Academy. That would be the end of my senior year for Pretty Smart. And then last week, I got another email from Karlie Kloss. I got to go to New York City this weekend, and I just got back yesterday at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I got to work on a very super secret special project with Karlie Kloss that I'm not allowed to share because of confidentiality reasons. But I got to go to New York City and see Karlie Kloss again and work with her. And I got to talk to her about everything that I was doing with Pretty Smart. And she came up to me, and I grabbed yet again another issue, and I put it into her hands, and she hugged me and said, "I'm so happy to see you, Brana. I'm so happy that I get to support you." And that human connection with Karlie Kloss was so important to me, because not only was my role model now one of my best friends, but she was my supporter. And being able to have that this weekend, and being able to see how all of my hard work has paid off, was so incredible. And so this was my story. I got to do incredible things with the opportunities that I was given. I got to go to New York City and St. Louis and meet Karlie Kloss 3 times, more than 3 times. And I got to do incredible things with a magazine that I created. But this isn't just my story. This is also yours. Now I want you to create your own. I want you to go out into the camps today, and I want you to take the opportunities that you are given, and I want you to create awesome apps and coding classes, and I want you to take awesome photography classes, and whatever you can take, and whatever inspires you. And I want you to use that as the drive for you for the rest of the day. And I want you to go out there and not only empower yourself and empower others, but I want you to use this to change the world. Thank you.
A seizer of opportunities. One who, when given a chance to do something interesting, answers yes. Brianna, thank you for sharing your story. If you've been with us before, you know that we like to follow the student keynote with a Maine-based adult. Somebody who's working the field. Brianna didn't mention that she's selected, she graduates this year from Foxcroft and will go to, Brianna, correct me if I'm wrong, Pace University to study journalism, which caused us to look around the state of Maine and see who we might be able to find who could speak to journalism. If you're not aware, at the Maine College of Art, there's a project called SALT, the SALT Institute for Documentary Studies. And just recently, they named a new chair of that program. That chair is Annie Aviles. And Annie, if you could come up. So Annie is going to speak to us. But before Annie speaks, Brianna, you mentioned several times the power of the human connection. And I would be disingenuous not to complete this introduction by saying that the first time I met Annie, she was about this tall, and she was a third grader coming into my classroom at Bowdoin Central School. So for the adults in the room, and for the kids as well, to be able to introduce a young woman who, from the very first, you knew was going to do great things, to tell her story, and to connect to another young woman who we know will do great things. The wheel continues to go around. With that, Annie Aviles.
So the thing that Jim didn't, or Mr. Moulton didn't mention, he was one of the best teachers at our school because he took us outside all the time, and I think one of my favorite memories of my whole school career is we used to go down to the stream behind Bowdoin Central, and one day he fell into the stream and got entirely wet. And I'm still not sure if he did it on purpose or not, but it was, I hope you all see your teachers fall into a stream at some point. In a good way. So, my name's Annie Aviles. It's so fun to be here. It's really exciting to be back in Maine and to be around other Maine students. I loved Bri's speech. It was so inspiring and so well done. And I'm going to talk more about what exactly it is about Bri's project that I think is so amazing, and about all the work that you're doing too. Before I do, I just want to introduce myself a little bit more and talk about SALT a bit. So my name is Annie Aviles. I grew up here in Maine, in the town of Bowdoin, which is small, and it's... You got that? Thank you. It's small, it's rural. I was born there, I lived there my entire childhood, and I graduated from Mount Ararat in Topsom. When I left to go to college, Mount Ararat here? Yeah? Awesome. So when I left to go to college out of state, I didn't know whether I'd come back. I think for those of you that are heading off now, you just don't know what's going to come next. When I was an undergrad, I lived in Chile and Cuba. I got really interested in Latin America, and once I had my degree, I moved to Bolivia, where I started working as a journalist. I was making radio stories for NPR, and I ended up living in South America as an immigrant for 10 years. I moved back just a couple of years ago to Maine, and I make podcasts now, and I work at Maine College of Art, the program that Jim mentioned, the SALT Institute for Documentary Studies. So it's a semester program. It's in downtown Portland on the Mecca campus, which is an amazing place right on Congress Street. And what we do is we teach students to produce radio, writing, short film, and photography. Students that I've taught and that my colleagues have taught have gone on to work at places like New York Times, NPR, Vice Media, Outside Magazine. So people really, they go through our program and they go out and they make media. And that's part of why I'm so inspired by what Bri is doing, because I see this every day in my work life. So that's SALT at Mecca. And so when I first heard about Bri's project, I got so excited, and I was so impressed for a huge range of reasons. You know, she was a fellow Mainer. I think all of you that have grown up here and go to school here know that feeling. You know, I think Maine is a really special place, and Mainers are always really excited to see other folks from the state doing great things. And what she was doing, she was using these tools that are available to anyone, you know, who has an iPad and an internet connection. And she was bringing to life something that she dreamed of, this amazing media project that she told you about. I loved looking through some of the issues of Pretty Smart online. It's so unique. It depicts young women as powerful people who are intelligent and involved in their communities, and at the same time are also interested in things like fashion and design. That's so important for any woman of any age to see, and getting that start when you're young, I think, is just an incredible opportunity. And at the same time, while her project is so one of a kind and so entirely hers, it also has some qualities in common with other inspiring media projects that I've seen all over the world in my work. I want to take a couple minutes to play a short clip. It's like 2.5 minutes of a story that I reported a few years about some people doing a media project in Peru. who also came up with this really creative way to use these tools that are available to a lot of us. It's called Lucha Libre, and basically it's this live event in the city of Lima, so this enormous city, I think it's almost 12 million people in Peru. And what happens is people go once a month, and it's young people, students, college kids, they dress up in masks, like those wrestlers' masks that cover your face entirely, and they write in front of a live audience, like a competition. You get these prompts, you're on a timer, and you're writing live. It's like, like doing stand-up comedy, but you're writing. So I'm just going to play that for you guys, and then I'll talk a little bit more. On a chilly Monday night, a bar called La Noche is packed. Usually people come to see live bands, but tonight they're here for Lucha Libre, a form of literary wrestling, where new writers are given 3 random words, a laptop hooked up to a gigantic screen, and 5 minutes to write a short story. At the end of a match, the losing writer has to take off their mask. The winner goes on to the next round a week later, and the grand prize, it's a book contract. The crowd is youngish, people in their 20s and 30s, a lot of big glasses and skinny jeans. An announcer in a striped referee shirt takes the stage. The first contestant is a guy who goes by the name Chicken Wilson. He's tall and goofy, but when he sees the 3 words projected on the screen behind him, he gets serious. He's got monkey, plane ticket, and dictionary to work with. The announcer counts to 3 and the clock starts. No one is talking. But just a paragraph in, Chicken Wilson freezes. The seconds are ticking by, so the crowd starts cheering him on. And he rallies, dashing off a short story about monkeys living in the city and an American girl on vacation in Peru. This event is more than just a bunch of young writers fooling around in wrestling masks, says Dante Trujillo. He runs the Solar editorial house, which will publish the winning entry. He says that even though Peru's economy is doing well right now, Peru is still feeling the impact of some hard decades. There was the military government in the 70s, the civil war in the 80s, and then the collapse of the economy.
Entonces las perspectivas para un autor, and so for young authors just beginning their careers, the best advice you can give them is to get out of Peru.
Backstage, Chicken Wilson explains that his pseudonym is a family nickname, but other contestants say that there's more to their stage names. One young woman with a pale blonde braid falling out the back of her black wrestler's mask calls herself L, like the letter.
When I write, I often write lyrical pieces, poems, and I usually sign them with that one letter. L also stands for loser to me, and this concept of the underdog, of a person that nobody thinks can win, I'm really into that.
Actually, it's Chicken Wilson who ends up losing his match while L advances. Whoever wins the final round in a few weeks will have 6 months to finish their book. It'll be released at the Lima Book Fair, where the writer will take off the mask and reveal his or her real identity for the first time. Writer Jonathan Vasquez is one of the founders of Lucha Libre. He says the chance to win that coveted publishing contract is important, but not all there is to it.
También de alguna manera desmitificar que la literatura es aburrida, ¿no?
He says it's also about changing the idea that literature is boring. According to him, this turns it into an event, because it's not just about the opportunity for a young person to become a writer, he says. It's also having a place for young people to hang out and to read. So that story's from about 5 years ago, but I think what that group of writers and people is doing is so relevant. And so that, instantly kind of came into my mind when I was thinking about what Bri was doing, because it has a lot in common. Here in Maine, she's writing articles and taking photos and doing layouts and even learning to write code, which I think is so amazing. I'm in awe of. But whether it's a live writing competition like in Peru or an independent digital magazine like what Bri is making, I think what's essentially happening is that you've got people taking some standard digital tools and equipment and using them to interpret what they feel is important, and then making something totally new out of that, something that no one has ever seen before, and that expresses a specific idea or solves a specific problem, which is exactly what makes good media. Like, that's what we look for when we're evaluating, like, what is good media, what are we looking for? So when I talked to Bri about all the work she's done, I was impressed by that. I was impressed by the fact that she'd done something entirely of her own, all the work that went into it, and just the fact that she made the decision, that she took the initiative to do it. When we talked on the phone, she said to me, The first thing I had to get over was being scared. So this is a quote. I think the fear of failure is something that holds back a lot of people. When I started, I didn't think my opinion mattered. I was trying to stay in the background and to make sure my opinion was the same as everyone else. Now that's so relatable, at least I think so. I know I've felt that way before myself, and it's crazy to me to hear Bri talk and to think that she had that moment at the start of all this, because it's clear that her project has been so successful and that she has such poise and confidence about it. And then the thing that she said next when we were talking, I think, is what reflects, what Bri is doing now and where she got to. She said to me, and then I realized it didn't matter. Like, it didn't matter that being scared or being intimidated, just as long as she was doing something that was making a difference. That was like her big takeaway when we were having this conversation. And in my mind, that's kind of the essence of Bri's story, or at least what I know of it. She had a dream, she had these tools that most people who go to school in Maine, like you guys, are fortunate enough to have access to. And she just decided to go for it. So whether you're in Maine or you're in Peru, whoever you are, whatever your background, when you use these tools and you take a chance and create something that you've been dreaming of making or imagining, you become part of this bigger movement that's going on all over the world. And it's made up of other people who are also finding ways to take something that at one moment existed only in their minds too. And then they're turning it, and you're turning it into something that's not only real, but it can be shared with others. So I just want to say congratulations to Bri for all her hard work and accomplishments, and also to all of you for all of the ideas and projects that I'm sure each of you has in mind or you're even already working on. As Bri has demonstrated, the difference between thinking about the thing and making it real so that you can share it out in the world is simply taking those tools that you have at hand and experimenting, and above all else, making that decision to take a chance. Just deciding to go out there and make the thing that you've been thinking of no matter what. So thank you for having me here. Have a wonderful morning, and good luck to all of you.